Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Neutral News Network. I'm your host, Brian, alongside Jake, and we are going to be talking about the United Healthcare CEO shooting slash assassination, and additionally, we're going to do a deep dive into oil, energy, gasoline prices, etc., and things of that nature. Additionally, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the top three news stories in the economy from Ground News. Um, which I just realized I totally forgot to send to Zachary. So if Zachary, you want to pop those up real quick, I just sent those in the chat. We'll get those kicked up and started here.
10-4.
Thank you. I knew I was
Link.
going to do something.
What else is new?
Come on, Brian, get
Right.
it together.
Okay.
I'll try.
It's in the chat, so you are.
All right, perfect. So first three news stories that we'll cover today, just kind of, again, this is where we cover three stories and just kind of brush over them, but they're still top and important, so you want to know about them and look up and do some research on them if you have the time. So first off, looks like you're sharing
Yeah, I gotta.
your face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta do the real
Facebook
quick.
time.
I wish
Nice.
studio mode in this didn't suck. It's really annoying.
That's fine.
Yawn.
Hey, you know what? We're gonna have technical difficulties at times. It's mostly my fault for not sending it to
Ta-da.
Zachary. So,
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
oh, it was up. Now it's back to our faces.
I hate OBS. I quit.
Technical editor lasted a month and a half.
Okay, now it's fine.
All right. So yeah, first off, first news story. U.S. inflation rises 2.7% in November, in line with expectations. So basically, it's slightly higher than the annual rate that we've been having throughout the year, but nothing that's quite too alarming with the Fed. I know we talked about the Fed last week. They have their rate decision that I believe is coming up next week. I don't think this really changes anything. I think this is kind of where, like I said, things are coming in kind of as expected. So I think the Fed's probably going to lean towards cutting another 25%. But again, it's still up in the air. A lot of things can happen. Um, Next, Donald Trump will ring the New York Stock Exchange's bell as he is named Time Person of the Year, I'm guessing. So obviously, the former president and president-elect is obviously back in the limelight very quickly. No shock, he really didn't leave. So yeah, basically anybody can go in and ring the New York Stock Exchange bell. You just have to be invited by the New York Stock Exchange themselves. But yeah, you go in, you basically ring the bell when the market opens on that given day, and sometimes a lot of companies will do it if they have like an IPO or things of that nature. Sometimes it'll be fund managers. Sometimes it'll just be companies in general that kind of send people who are representing them to ring the bell. It depends on a litany of things, but he will be doing that. And then lastly, the Supreme Court allows investors class action lawsuit to proceed against NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is being sued in an investor class action lawsuit, basically for misleading investors in the past about its previous economic filings. Again, and you can kind of see the breakdown here. Pretty even news coverage with the inflation story, with a little bit more being covered by the right-leaning news sources, more right-leaning news sources covering Trump's arrival to the New York Stock Exchange, and more left-leaning sources covering the class action lawsuit against NVIDIA. And with that, and corporations getting into trouble, we will now kick it off to Jake so he can talk about the United CEO and his demise.
So I want to start by reading a little excerpt from the Luigi Mangione. If you didn't know who that is, he is the current suspect under arrest for the murder of Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO.
Not Brian Armstrong.
Not Brian Armstrong.
Also, hi Morgan. Thanks for tuning in.
But just this, I'm going to go into detail about like the conspiracy and like plot. But I want to start by reading part of his manifesto that he wrote. So, all right. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I was not working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the US has the number one most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the US by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but as our life expectancy, no. The reality is these indecipherable, have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space. And frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Um, I think a lot of now. I think of this. This reminds me a lot of uh, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Oh,
In
yeah.
his manifesto, you could read. This is just a little snippet from the manifesto, but it is fascinating. This is pretty fascinating to learn about. And as things are coming out about Luigi Mangione and what he did. So I got a list of 10 key facts about the plot to um, kill Brian Thompson. Um,
Jake,
yeah, go
can I
ahead.
jump in real quick?
Uh-huh.
So I sent them to Zachary, and he can post them in the description. But I did find, yeah, so he's got it pulled up there. So Mangione did have a point. The United States has the most expensive healthcare in the world by a large margin, and that was in 2021. So I'm sure that number has done nothing but go up, just due to recent inflationary factors and things of that nature. And then additionally, I also sent this link that Zachary now has pulled up. And if you search for the United States, we're actually 48th according to this list. So I don't know where he got his sources, but he was very close in his manifesto.
Yeah.
Yes, the United States, for being the richest country in the world in GDP and I'm per capita GDP, I believe we're richest in the world per capita GDP. If I'm incorrect, I apologize. That might be like Switzerland or something like that.
We're
Um,
close to the top.
yeah, but our healthcare system, frankly, is very laxed in regards. Just for comparison, like Japan, South Korea, French Polynesia, and Switzerland and Hong Kong. Those are your top five: Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, French Polynesia, Switzerland, Australia. That's the top six. So, but yeah, you have to go all the way to 48th to find the United States. So I'm wondering if maybe he was excluding some smaller countries that maybe didn't make his list. But yeah, so just for comparison, the United States definitely does have a healthcare problem for sure.
Yeah. So and then as I was saying, the so obviously he's done research. He's not dumb. He's not a dumb person. He's very well educated, very like, and as I think that's what makes this so relatable to the Unabomber case and all of that, like very anti-establishment, like all that stuff. So 26-year-old software engineer, um, arrested for killing CEO Brian Thompson. He has a background in technology and 3D printing, which I'll get into. That does come into play. As I said, he left behind a 3-page handwritten manifesto criticizing the U.S. healthcare system, particularly targeting United Healthcare for its high claim denial rates and prioritization of profits over patient care. Now, I'm not sure what his personal beef with United Healthcare was. I don't think that's been released yet.
So I can actually
Or
speak to that a little bit. It's believed that he had a multitude of back surgeries. Um, that was
Okay.
his beef, and his claims were denied.
Denied.
Which,
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
believe that was the case. If that's incorrect, I apologize, but that's what I know as of right now. I don't have any sources pulled up on hand, but I believe that is the case.
Okay. I just haven't seen anything about that, so I was just I mean, yeah, if that's wrong, feel free to fact check us. Um, so uh, Mangione used a 3D printed gun to commit the crime, which highlighted his technical skills and the big issue of untraceable firearms that have been. To me, it seems like it comes out every so often about 3D printed guns
I
doing.
was about to say that'll be another episode.
Yeah. We could make a whole episode about that. But the gun was a modified FMDA 19.2 model, known for its reliability among 3D printed firearms. Um, so I guess it's a pretty standard. I know nothing about 3D printed firearms. I guess it's pretty standard. And uh, so the manifesto detailed Mangione's personal grievances with the healthcare system, blaming it for personal losses, and criticizes the broader industry for denying necessary medical care. The public response has been divided. A lot of just you go online, you're just seeing stuff about him being almost like an anti-hero. Like kick. I've seen people talking about maybe violence is the only way to do this, and this is a kind of a crazy situation that the public is finding themselves in, viewing him as a symbol of resistance against corporate greed in healthcare. Many others have condemned these reactions and emphasized the severity of his crime, which I will say is very severe. I will get into just 10 things he can already be charged with after I get through this part. Um, it remains unclear if Mangione's use of a 3D printed gun was a deliberate political statement, um, because like I said earlier, of the use of 3D weapons or 3D printed firearms has been a big issue in the past, or if it was just uh, just for him to avoid undetection. Um, um, And then the incident has intensified criticism of the healthcare industry, particularly United Healthcare, which has the highest claim denial and rate among private insurers, according to various reports and sources that I found on the internet. Zach, are you going to post them if you didn't already?
Yes.
Okay. Um, and then the criticism has been a central theme in the public discourse following the shooting. So let me get into the charges that he is going to be faced with. So one, obviously, first degree murder, charged with premeditated and intentional killing of Brian Thompson. That is just right off the bat, first degree murder. Now, the second one, possession of an unregistered firearm. He used a 3D printed gun, which is untraceable and illegal without proper registration. So that's number two. Uh, Conspiracy to commit murder. He made a manifesto. He spelled it out basically like, this is going to happen. I'm going to do this. It's just me doing this. Obviously, premeditated conspiracy to commit murder. Terroristic threats. The content of his manifesto and the political motivations behind the attack could lead to charges of making terroristic threats. He could let me I'll get back to that. But terrorism is a huge deal. He's literally causing these other CEOs of other companies to pull information off of their websites in fear of further retaliation by some other entity that maybe he did kick kickstart something. I don't know. Um, illegal manufacture of a firearm, and that's number 5. The creation and use of a 3D printed gun violates laws regarding the manufacturing of firearms without a license. So just making the firearm, it breaks all sorts of like manufacturing laws. Um, Aggravated assault, if there were any attempts or threats of violence leading up to the murder, this charge might be included. Again, that one is kind of up in the air. Um, but if he has threatened violence in the past, it could be something to look out for in terms of his charges. Use of see, like, all these kind of relate to each other, but they're all separate charges. Um, Use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. The use of the firearm in the act of committing murder supports this charge. So just using a firearm in the commission of the felony is another charge. Criminal threats. Manifesto and his statements might also lead to charges for making criminal threats. And then this last one that I have, possession of weapons of mass destruction. Depending on the specific characteristics of the gun and any modifications, this severe charge might also be considered. Like, what you do to the gun specifically matters in terms of severity of like what type of weapon is used.
And I think like a good example to compare that to is if people remember back a few years ago, there was an incident that happened in Las Vegas where a man had a high-powered assault rifle
Yeah.
who modified it with a bump stock to take a like a single shot weapon and make it pretty much fire automatically. That's kind of what Jake's leading into there.
Hmm.
In this case, I don't think that would apply because if I remember correctly, this gun was a single shot. Because if you watch the video of the assassination, which I did,
Yeah.
not, I mean, if you're sensitive to that, don't watch it, obviously. But it did look like it was a single fire type mechanism where he had to shoot, load a bullet, shoot, load a bullet, shoot, load a bullet.
Yeah, and now I know he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a silencer on it that could also have other
Correct.
legal implications.
Yeah, because
So
you have to go
Whether
through a
it's
background check to get a
yes,
silencer.
yes, and
I
that could
found an
Oh,
image from
go ahead.
ABC News of the ghost gun that they recovered from
Oh,
him. So this is what it was.
And they're called ghost guns because obviously they're
Yeah,
can't be
3D printed,
traced.
can't really trace
Yep.
them. Yeah.
Yep.
right. So that was
Yeah.
the gun that was recovered.
According to this here article from ABC
If-
News, yes.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
because I mean that does look like a standard fire pistol. It doesn't look like it has to be single loaded. Obviously, it looks like it has a magazine
Yeah.
that
It
you would load
looks.
into it and chamber unless you have to chamber one round at a time and it doesn't have a feeding mechanism like you have to
Mhm.
chamber. Yeah, but
Yeah.
interesting.
That is interesting. I
I
guess
get
I
flagged
guess
by
if
YouTube for
you're
showing a gun.
yeah, I mean, I guess if you're like adept with doing this stuff, it's honestly terrifying to me about like these ghost guns.
Hmm.
If you
Right,
just
and I mean,
if you know what you're doing and you can know how to make it like well, like he apparently did, like because I
and also
remember I'm
I was
go
gonna
ahead, Brent.
I was gonna say during when you were reading the manifesto, one of the applications that was brought up was the initials were CAD. That's CAD.
Cat, yeah,
It's computer aided design. So I'm imagining that he probably, with his engineering background, designed the gun in a CAD like in a
program,
CAD
yeah.
adjacent program. Yeah, it might not have
Mhm.
been CAD itself, but MicroStation, Bentley, something of that nature.
Right, right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Um um so I mean that's and then if I want like all right. So I mean that's all I had with that. I mean if you want to talk about like a lot of I know a lot of the backlash with United Healthcare is like the greed and like whatever with like CEOs of these like million billion dollar companies. I know like there are so many companies like Costco, for example, that are known for like not being greedy, putting money back into their employees and stuff like that. I just know that they're out there. Not every corporation is super greedy. Like I'm not even going to say that United Healthcare is greedy. I don't know much about them. Just like from this example, but yeah, just stuff like that.
So, I think it's important to realize, like, when it comes to United Healthcare, that you know the way that our system works, it is a very capitalistic system. Companies have to make money in order to turn a profit, in order to grow, in order to get more employees, in order to pay out shareholders, things like that. That's just the system that we live in. Could that change? Absolutely down the line. Is it going to tomorrow? No. Um, but I mean, we have to realize as well that United Healthcare employs approximately 440,000 Americans. That's a lot.
Oh yeah,
That's over 1% of uh actually that's I think that's around probably that's getting close to probably 1% of the workforce. Let me see what the total workforce is. It's probably a little bit less than 1%. It's probably like 0.4%.
hi Rob, thanks for saying hi.
Hi Rob. Yeah, so it's actually probably about a quarter percent now that I'm doing the math on the top of my head. So forgive me if I'm wrong. But still, that's a large chunk of the American populace who rely on United Healthcare for paychecks, and those people don't do anything wrong. But it's the situation. I've seen people make references to The Incredibles, where Bob Parr, the superhero,
Mr.
main
Incredible.
character, Mr. Incredible. Yep, there you go. I was gonna go for the main character, but that's the best way to
Oh
put it. Yeah, Mr.
yeah,
Incredible himself. Before he goes back to being a superhero, he works for an insurance company, and there's a scene in there where an old lady goes in and tries to have an insurance claim filed, and basically it's kind of like you need to rubber stamp deny it. That's kind of what's not happening all the time with United Healthcare, because obviously they still approve certain healthcare claims and things of that nature, but they do have a very high denial rate. And then uh, Mr. Incredible goes on to like tell her a loophole to go get the claim approved and whatnot. And his boss comes in and basically like tells him he can't do that, like or he'll be fired, and Mr. Incredible will become like is this close to killing him.
yeah,
so
literally,
like this I mean this is a problem that's existed for well over probably I mean let's just say decades at this point. I mean The Incredibles came out in 2008 I believe, so we're coming up on like 2
yeah,
decades of this, and I'm sure that this happened long before that for the fact that they made it a point to include it in the movie, which was a kids movie, but obviously all kids movies have adult elements in it because someone's got to take the kids to the
right.
movie, right? So
They're not just for
um
kids.
right, exactly. So, this is this is a big systemic problem, and this is going to be this could be nothing. Like this could all come to pass and blow over in the next 3 weeks, or this could be a watershed moment where this could be a domino effect where more people could go out and they could protest, they could march, they could do
Right.
things that are more peaceful. Obviously, we're not condoning the murder of anybody, regardless of the memes and how funny they might be. But there's different ways to go about solving these issues, obviously. But there are issues that need to be solved. Desperate
Yeah.
people do desperate things, and I think that's what happened with Mr. Luigi. So
Yeah, I
So,
think go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just have a
I just
question for when we're done.
yeah, I just want to say like what Brian was saying, like we don't condone like violence in any capacity, but like things I personally think that this will be talked about for a long time. I don't think it's going to blow over overnight. This reminds me too much of, as I said previously, the Unabomber case. And look that case up for yourself. Make your own comparisons with that if you don't know about that
I,
case. He
I
was I'm almost positive he was a Harvard graduate, or he dropped out of Harvard or whatever. He went to Harvard, um, and then he started making bombs and sending them to basically employees of certain government, maybe not government, but like people in companies that were. He was more like protecting the environment and getting rid of like technology, thinking technology was bad, but um, he's making bombs, sending them to people.
yeah, and I think like the main like the similarity here is that um obviously they had their motivations and they had like specific people or types of folks that they were targeting. But in this case here, it did seem like it was very directed. I mean, if there is anything to be thankful here, and it's obviously terrible for Brian Thompson's family, it's the fact that
Mm,
he didn't take it out on anybody else. There's
right.
plenty of situations where individuals get disgruntled, get angry, get frustrated at the system, their bosses, their work, the just life in general, and they take it out on others. Um, let's be thankful because I mean, in downtown
Just
New
like
York
in
City,
everyday
yeah,
people, they
yeah, yeah,
they come home, they are terrible to their significant others just because they had a bad day or something didn't go right.
mhm, yeah. I mean, and then obviously, other situations of domestic terrorism where people who aren't even involved in whatever caused that person the strife are caught in the crossfire. Uh, so let's be thankful for that at least. All right.
That's all I
Well,
got. Yeah.
on that cheery note, don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share this with your friends if you're interested. You feel like you're learning something, and feel like you're getting a little bit more of a deep dive into some of these
Or
topics than what you
or
might
if
get
you
on
have the
the 7 o'clock
will,
news.
yeah, or if you have the will to want to go learn about this stuff. Like
Yeah.
I guess there's still stuff coming out about Luigi and United Healthcare and all of this that's going on with that. There's
Mhm.
still stuff coming out about it. I mean, I this is just a brief like synopsis of the things that have been and are being talked about.
Right. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and crack into to my topic now. I got about let's just say 25 minutes. Want to give 5 minutes or so for us to wrap up, and for Zachary to give his little sign off tidbit that he always gives. So I'm going into basically an ExxonMobil story, but also kind of just energy production in general, just a really bird's eye view of the entire energy system that the United States has to offer as a whole. Um, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts of kind of what I think is going to happen as we go forward. Um, but obviously there's probably some finer details that I'm going to say that will need to be sourced. Um, but yeah, without further ado, I will go ahead and talk about a ground news article that was discussed on ExxonMobil to boost oil production despite global slowdown. So right now, ExxonMobil, I believe, is the largest domestic oil producer in the United States, and they're planning to increase oil production to 5.4 million barrels a day by 2030. To 5.4 million barrels a day by 2030. Basically, this is kind of significant due to the fact that oil itself is kind of at the sweet spot for American industry and profit margins. It's to the point where gas, kind of like my Brian's rant last week, where I went off on gas prices. Now they're actually cheaper when adjusted for inflation. Um, the oil right now is kind of at a sweet spot where it's cheap enough that gas is cheap enough that it's cheaper than inflation, but it's high enough that these oil companies can still make a margin on the oil and gasoline and other fuel distillate products that they create. um, so what's interesting to me is that ExxonMobil choosing to produce more oil into a slowdown that they're predicting. Like, there's obviously tons of different people who predict that there's, there's going to be an oil demand, there's going to be an oil, glut, there's going to be too much. Like, there's people on both sides who are constantly predicting, but it's just the the easiest thing when it comes to business is supply and demand. When you think about it, if you need something, you make more of it. If you
It's
don't need
basic
something, yeah,
basic economics.
yeah. So Exxon is going against the grain for some reason. So I'd be interested to see what they've got in their top secret info, behind closed doors. Um, but yeah, so they are going to they're going to uh, spend 27 to 29 billion dollars in cash in 2025, which is pretty on par with what they've spent this year, and they are going to acquire Pioneer Natural Resources for $60 billion. So I think that that's where they're going to try and improve their production cost overall, and that's kind of where I was getting at with the oil production price. So I believe, and again, I don't have this source off the top of my head, but I believe that it costs about 50 to $60 um, to make 1 barrel of crude oil in the United States. I think if you like do it really, really efficiently, it's maybe in the high 40s, and if you do it really, really inefficiently, it's in the mid 60s. So right now, United States oil being at $70.21. This is right now. I'm looking at the stock exchange right now. They're making profit on each barrel of oil that they create and they sell. So Exxon being the largest producer and improving their production efficiency, I could see them potentially increasing production to try to buy out more smaller oil manufacturers, more oil refineries. Basically try to become bigger, badder, and better. You know what I mean? So I think that
Okay.
that could be a partial motivation as to why they're doing this.
Um,
Any
I'm
thoughts on that?
I'm I'm not sure if this is correct, but
Mhm.
quick Google gave me the minimum break even price of oh wait, $38 per barrel is the break even price. Monthly average range between 77 and $81 by the time of this survey, which was in April of 2024.
That's that through Statista?
Yeah,
Okay. So that was 2024. Oh, does it not
April.
show you
Yeah,
the actual chart?
yeah. I can't view the chart.
Hmm, Barrel breakdown.
Crude
This
crude cost is $1.39 per gallon, $58.26 a barrel. That's from Volta Oil.
okay.
That's just crude oil cost.
So this okay. So I think this is where I was getting it. So my information is probably dated here. Um, but I believe there was a report that came back out in the late 2010s that was talking about shale production. And so shale produced oil that was like the upper 60s per barrel. So I'm sure that's gotten cheaper. Um, but and so it really depends on where you are in the world, how cheap the oil is to get, and the technology that you're using. It's just like obviously, in the Middle East, you pretty much just stick a hole in the ground and oil comes out in a sense. And there's portions of the United States the same way here, especially with oil fields like the oil rigs that we have out in the Gulf, things of that nature. But shale fracking is a whole another can of worms. It's a whole different
Mhm.
oil process where basically they inject water into the ground. There's all of this oil that's in the rocks in the creases of the shale. They fracture it with the water. The oil seeps out, and then they suck it out like a big straw. So I hope the
Fracking.
yeah, I hope the noise that I just made was
It was
nice.
glorious.
Yeah, perfect. Um,
What's that guy's name?
I have
The
no idea.
ice guy?
We're gonna call him Bert. Um,
I don't think it's Bert.
no. Um, but
If
yeah,
Cole's
so
watching, he'd know.
oh jeez. Well, leaning on I sent Zachary a Market Watch article that I'm going to be kind of talking about and going into here. It's titled Exxon pouring $140 billion into the Permian Basin after rise in third quarter production. So again, they're producing more oil even this year as we speak. And they're planning on, another $140 billion in the Permian Basin, which is, in the United States. And that's a lot of money into local economies that are in those areas. So not a terribly bad thing to hear. And we're not going to, for anybody who's environmentalist or really doesn't like green energy, we obviously need to make that switch sooner rather than later. But it's not something that's going to happen overnight, especially when I mean, they're spending $140 billion to expand production in one region of the United States. So just imagine this is one company, one region, $140 billion. This industry is not small. It's not going away tomorrow.
No,
So um, just keep that in mind.
it's
Uh,
probably not going away in our lifetimes.
correct. I mean, it will get
It'll
ideally
get
in a perfect world, it'll
right.
get phased out, but it will not
Mhm.
go away. Like
Right.
or phased down. I will say,
Yeah,
not
face down.
out.
Yeah.
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 But this announcement was after they spent 60 billion to buy Pioneer Natural Resources, kind of like what I mentioned earlier. Um, they're planning on saving $3 billion from the Pioneer acquisition, and they will. They're planning on actually, according to this article, they're planning on giving a lot of the cash that they're going to generate from this Permian oil base expansion back to the consumers, which and this kind of ties back into the United Healthcare situation. Because if I go to ExxonMobil, um, uh, actually, what's their ticker? I just had it up. XOM. So if I go to ExxonMobil's ticker, their stock price has gone just through the roof, especially in 2022 alone. The stock price went up 87%. So, um, and I mean, back in just by comparison, back in January of '95, their stock was at $6.22. Now it's at $112, give or take. Um, but a lot of times these companies, they do pay out their shareholders, which sometimes are employees, sometimes they're private investors. They pay them out in dividends, and obviously, you need to have constant profits to be able to pay out those dividends to all of your shareholders, and that's just straight up money that you are giving back to the people who own a share of your stock. So, if you own one share of ExxonMobil, it's $112 per share, and the dividend payment is 3.14%. Every quarter, you get paid 3.14%. Or sorry, that's per annum. So you get whatever 3.1 or 3.41 divided by 4% is. So it's just under 1%. So you basically get about, let's just say, a dollar, or a little bit less than a dollar every quarter for your one share. So, and for some people that's practical. I mean, some people have made their living off of dividend investments from companies. So, again, kind of going back to the United Healthcare thing, that's just how our system is. That's how the stock system is. It is a interwoven portion of our society, especially with 401ks, IRAs, things of that nature. So unless something changes on a very, very structural level, these companies are going to have to prioritize profits to pay out their shareholders or cut their dividends. And if they cut their dividends, their stock price will go down, they'll lose money, and they could run a risk of going bankrupt, especially if their debt is consolidated and capitalized with their stock holdings. So it's a big old tangled mess of malarkey. But it's
Yeah, if you want
but
to learn about the stock market, that's just like a whole. We could go into that.
I could like
Yeah,
3D printed guns and the stock
it's
market.
stock
Those could
market.
be like four episodes.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So now I'm kind of gonna kind of go into the EIA, which the EIA they are basically the United States Energy Information Administration. Um, they are pretty much widely known as the most reliable data source for anything energy related when it comes to the United States. So if you're looking for accurate average gasoline prices, average accurate diesel prices, the prices for what fuel is in different parts of the country, uh, you can use the EIA um, as your go-to. Actually, if you want to go to the one that I kind of will look at first, Zachary, is the uh, petroleum and gas diesel one that I sent. I don't know if it came up with a picture or not. Oh yeah, gasoline and diesel fuel update. That's the one. Yeah. So because this I think kind of fuels into the discussion that I wanted to have last week when I kind of had my rant. Is just that obviously um, somebody brought this up too when I was talking to them in between episodes. I was just like, why is the gasoline in California so much higher than everywhere else? And I said, well, there's a lot that goes into that. There's the gas tax, there's any local tax that any place puts on their gasoline, there's diesel taxes, things like that. So there's the tax structure, which obviously taxes in California are more higher than higher than in other places.
You got to look at
Um,
traffic too.
well, and I was
Like,
going to say, yep, traffic and logistics locally, but then
mhm.
you've also got logistics nationally. A lot of our refineries are near the Gulf Coast or east of the Mississippi River, but west of the Appalachian Mountains. So, guess what? If you look at this chart that Zachary has pulled up here, see that really light blue line that's at the very bottom there? Can you hover over that, Zachary? Oh, wow. That's the Gulf Coast. They have the cheapest gas. It's almost as if it's because the refineries are right there. So you
So
make the gas, you ship it to the gas station 3 doors down. No shit, it's going to take $5 to make it and ship it.
might
So
as well ship it right to your car.
right, exactly. Go to the refinery and fill up. Exactly. But now to California, you've got to now take that gasoline and you have a couple options. You could cart it over by train through the Rocky Mountains, which again, we have the infrastructure, but still, you're transporting it a long way through the Rocky Mountains. You could haul it in a truck, a semi truck. Good luck with that. That's going to take a long time. A lot of fuel is going to be used, and you're probably going to use more fuel in the process. Not actually. There's a lot that goes into a diesel tanker, but still, you get what I'm saying. You're going to use a lot of fuel just to get it there. Or then you could um, take a boat and ship it through the Panama Canal up into California because there's no river system that goes from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to California in the United States. It's just not how our geography was. So, people need to understand that there's so much that goes into gasoline prices that, it's not just this binary switch that can be flipped on or flipped down or flipped up or down every single time. Like there's so much that drives gasoline prices,
Mhm.
and it's based upon geography. I mean, the thing is too is like I believe there's a refinery up in like near Gary, Indiana, which that refinery controls a lot of the Great Lakes gas prices. So if that refinery loses production for some reason, I mean, a lot of the refineries in the United States are very old and very out of date, and I'd argue that we'd be better off if we built new refineries solely for the fact that they would probably be more energy efficient. They'd probably be more environmentally friendly, and they'd probably be just more efficient in general, let alone energy efficient, but just they'd probably make more gasoline with less effort. So, but our refinery capacity is not up to snuff, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. Um, but yeah, so if that refinery starts losing production, all the gas prices in the Great Lakes are going to go up, while everywhere else might go down. So it's just you gotta understand that gas prices aren't a binary. Price goes up, price goes down. There's a lot that goes into it.
I mean, I'd almost argue that it's like any good or like product that it is like everyday consumption.
Hmm.
Like like I know I think it was I want to say around 2021 with chicken prices.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When chicken went through the roof, well, that was also because
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
there was a avian flu.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Things happen that
are out of anyone's
That's
control.
control. You're right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
I actually I've had this argument with people plenty of times that and people don't read the statement that I make. Presidents do not directly directly control gasoline prices. Sure, their policies can have impact on gasoline prices down the line or
Mhm.
in the future, but the president doesn't just walk up to Jake. Let's just say you're the energy secretary, Jake.
Okay.
He
Hey,
I
I'm the new energy secretary.
and I'm the president. I can't walk up to you, Jake, and I say, "Hey, man, I'm getting ready to lose this election. I need you to set all nationwide gas prices to $2. Can you do that for me?"
Well, you see, Brian, the gas prices.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you can't just do that. You can't
Right.
just go out and set. I mean, sure, if it was a total dictatorship and you controlled the means of production, like if it was a communist system or a total dictatorial system where the country owned everything, then yeah, you can just walk up and say, "Yeah, we want gas prices to be $2," and the people who run the gas stations will be like, "Well, sir, we're going to lose, you know, $60 billion a day doing this." And be like, "Oh, I don't care. We'll just make more money." But he can't do that because
Right.
ExxonMobil would do this to him and tell
Yeah.
him to kick rocks.
Yeah.
So
Literally kick rocks.
right,
Pound salt.
right, exactly. So you know, it's just not as easy as people make it out to be. The government is there to help and regulate and manage and do certain things, but it's not. It doesn't move lightning fast. People should know that about the government. You can't just change stuff overnight. This is not how it works. Um, but there's policies in place that can alleviate the stress, but a lot of what's going on now with the upcoming election of Donald Trump and him assuming office is one of his catchphrases or taglines was drill baby drill. The thing is that it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the oil prices. If you drill baby drill and you get oil so cheap and you've lowered the price of oil so much, well, guess what? These smaller oil producers that aren't ExxonMobil, that can't produce oil barrels at $41 a barrel, you're going to price them out. And they're either going to get bought up by ExxonMobil or they're going to go bust and people are going to lose their jobs, which is going to damage the
Mhm.
economy and damage the energy sector. Now, I'm not saying that oil prices should be $120 a barrel and gas should go up to $5 a gallon. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, the market is most times good at sorting itself out.
It's
Obviously, there can be bad actors. There
it's
can,
almost like
yeah,
if you
but
change one thing, it has a consequence or can change something else.
yeah, it's a domino
Yeah.
effect. It can turn into a domino effect really quickly. Um, and then I kind of want to go into the first EIA link that you had up there because I know we're running short on time. Um, but this kind of goes to show where a lot of our energy comes from. And quite frankly, I want to break the news to a lot of people. The United States has some of the cheapest energy costs on the planet. Um, our natural gas is basically we produce so much natural gas that we literally can't store it and transport it effectively, so we just have to burn it off. Uh, like if you look at the oil fields that are in South Dakota and North Dakota, it's I want to see if I can find a picture to and see it and send it to chat. Natural gas burn off from space, because like it's yeah, this one here. So um, wow, I don't know if the resolution in that picture could be any worse. There we go. Found one that's better. So yeah, if you could pull that up, Zachary, once it loads.
What is this?
So this is the you'll be looking at the Battin natural gas and oil fields up in North Dakota, and it is yeah. So obviously you can see that these are all the lights in the night sky, right? You see Chicago, you see Columbus, you see uh, Minneapolis, obviously highlighted in the circle, and then you see all of those bright lights in the middle of North Dakota, which I don't know if you know this. North Dakota doesn't have a ton of people, not a lot of big cities. So all of that you're seeing right there is literally natural gas that we can't transport anywhere, and we have to burn it. We just have to burn it. We can't do anything with it. So that is literally energy the United States could be using, and we just can't because it's an excess. That's why natural gas prices are so stupid cheap here. I mean, let me see natural gas. I'm trying to see natural.
What could we do with natural gas to like
So, um,
change the world?
well, the thing is with natural gas is that, you know, and by the way, it's $3.21 per BTU. But yeah, so they're like we're trying to find ways to better integrate natural gas into our production chains and things like that in order to make it, you know, so we're not wasting so much of it. Because yeah, if we can turn it into more reliable fuel, and it actually is cleaner than petroleum, like it is cheaper or cleaner than coal or oil. So I mean, it's not a perfect uh, fossil fuel in a sense, but I mean it is better than those two. I mean, my personal preference is we expand our nuclear power production. Um, that that technology has made leaps and bounds of improvement over time, and I think that honestly we need to drastically explore new ways to create new or to create more power that is more environmentally friendly. And I think nuclear power is the way to go. Obviously, and this can be its own episode and more of a sci-fi, type of UAP alien type episode. But know,
Mhm.
fusion reactors are something um, that the scientists are trying to work on. Basically, a fusion reactor is kind of the opposite of a fission reactor. Fission reactors are what we currently use nuclear power with. Fission is what created the atomic bomb. Obviously, we do much more controlled versions of that for nuclear power, but it creates nuclear waste that we then have to dispose of, which it's not a big of a deal as everyone kind of made it out in The Simpsons, but it's still a problem,
Yeah, and
but not
real
nearly as big of
quick,
one as think.
yeah,
Yeah,
uh, this
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was earlier this either late last year or earlier this year. Uh, they had a technology breakthrough where they were
correct.
able to
Yep,
actually produce that reaction and make power instead of losing power. It's just
yep.
on a very small scale, so a lot of work to be
I
done, but it's kind of a proof of concept thing that it is possible. We can do it. Now
so I
to industrialize that basically.
I
Right.
remember the exact uh I remember exactly what you're talking about. I want you guys to guess. This is gonna be kind of our funny segue into the end of the episode here. I want you guys to guess how much or what the heat energy that it produced could do. Like what like let's I'm gonna give you some examples. Like could it light a match on fire? Could it power
Oh,
a
the amount
house
you're
for
saying the
20?
amount that
Yeah,
they
like the amount of energy that they created.
with this
Like, that was
breakthrough.
that was in the positive, that
Okay.
was more than what they put into it, because they put,
Okay.
like I think they put days and they put, like, megawatts of energy into this, but they only got so much more in the positive. So,
Okay.
was that enough energy to, like, light a match? Was it enough energy to power a home for 24 hours? Was it enough to power, um, whatever city you live in, Jake, for a week? So, like, how much like, where on that scale do you think it landed?
Oh, it's probably the just based on how you're asking, I'm guessing the match.
Okay, so, Jake guesses towards the match. What do you think, Zachary?
I'm just gonna go opposite end of the
It's probably
spectrum and go
smaller than the
city.
match.
Okay. Well, if it's closer to the match.
Yeah.
It's closer to the match. Yeah. But they said that it produced in the surplus, and again, this is after using megawatts of energy, and this costs like thousands and thousands of dollars to just run the process. The net positive that they were able to create was enough to heat a cup of coffee.
Oh, wow.
That's it. Just enough to heat a cup of coffee. So it's got a ways to go, but it works in concept. Now,
Most
like what
expensive warm cup of coffee.
I'm pretty sure it was their exact quote. They said, "This is the hottest cup of coffee that you'll ever drink, or the most expensive hot cup of
For
coffee
the
you'll ever drink." Yeah.
right.
But yeah, but like what Zachary said, it's just now to find a way to scale it up, increase its efficiency, and turn it into an actual relevant source of power. And in the decades to come, I don't think this is going to happen overnight, but if it did, that'd be cool.
2050s is what I heard, where they like
Oh,
reasonably think they can have it running by.
we'll be to our 6th World War by then. All right,
Yeah.
so Zachary, go ahead and wrap us up here, and then I'll close this out.
So, in world news, in early November in the United Kingdom, a 63-year-old man was arrested because he stole $389,000 worth of cheese.
Wait, how many? How many dollars?
$389,000 worth of cheese.
Did he
Oh
talk
my
like
gosh.
this and run around with 3 little girls?
So he basically
Holy
he
moly. What kind of cheese? Hold up. What kind of cheese?
Yeah. The important questions.
it was
Gouda?
There were 3 different kinds.
Ooh.
So it was 950 wheels, which is over 22 metric tons, or roughly 48,500 pounds of Hafod. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. Westcombe and Pitchfork cheddar.
Okay. How did he transport them?
So he posed as a legitimate wholesale distributor for a French retailer. These
Oh my gosh.
the suppliers then delivered the cheese to him to his warehouse, and then he relocated it, and profit, I guess. What did he do with all the cheese? Who really knows? Who needs that much cheese?
He ate it, of course.
Dude, I don't want to smell that dude's basement. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. Ooh.
But he is out on bail, and
You have his bail amount.
he
Hell yeah.
stole so much and hurt one supplier so much they may not be able to stay in business.
Oh
but
no.
there may actually be a cheese shortage as a result, because it's going to take that long to make up the amount of cheese that he stole. So
Right, yeah, because a well-aged cheddar, which I'm guessing a lot of these are, they take years. It's just like wine. I mean,
Mhm.
a
So-
well-made wine can take a year or a few years to
So if
really.
you steal the cheese, does it like taint the cheese? Can you not?
I think so. It's kind of the concept of just like if you get food from a fast food place, like, and you say like, oh, can I like get something different? They can't just take that and serve it to someone else.
Right.
Yeah,
so
they have to throw it away.
they think he was
Wow.
trying to sell the cheese in the Middle East and in Russia. So sure.
That Russia wouldn't shock me because they've obviously got a ton of trade issues due to the war in Ukraine. So that doesn't.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Bob Barker.
He died.
No, this is his evil twin. Fod
Actually,
Barker.
this article
Bob Barker.
does not say. So I don't know if there's a reason, but it's not in this NPR article.
It's
So-
Mickey Mouse.
So you said it was, what were the 3 types? It was Hafod, it was Pitchfork, and
Holcomb, I believe, was the third
Holcomb?
Holcomb.
one. Where'd it go?
Well, hope you guys aren't
Westcombe.
going to
Sorry,
be.
Westcombe.
Oh, Westcombe.
Yeah.
Hope you guys ain't going to go look for some Hafod.
So he couldn't sell it
Hafod
to
cheese.
more local buyers, in the UK or Europe or even the US, because apparently the cheese community in those countries is all relatively well connected and they know each other. So,
What?
Oh, so is there? So it's the cheese. It's the cheese mob.
yeah. So he
Oh,
had to
that's funny.
look elsewhere.
That's incredible. The cheese Reddit goes crazy, bro.
It goes. It does go crazy.
Oh, that's
Oh
incredible.
wow.
I love it.
Me too.
Oh,
I love
Morgan,
cheese.
Morgan, totally agreed. That is insane. I'm a mild cheese guy. I'm not like a
Oh, I love
huge.
me some sharp cheddar, Brian.
So
So
like a half pound of these runs about like wait, what's it? Is a kilogram is about a half pound, right? No, a kilogram is 2 pounds, give or take. Is that right? Kilogram kg to lbs. Yeah, 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So if you were to have 0.5, which is 500 grams, that's about 1.1 pounds. So um, Westcombe cheddar from the Westcombe cheesery. What do you even call it? Cheesery. I don't
Cheesery.
know. I'm sure there's a
Uh,
term for it. I'm not in the cheese community. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
what? Cheesery. I like it.
So it is 14 pounds, and that's pounds sterling. So that's approximately like $18 US, somewhere in there. Now,
A
if you go to the
cheesemonger.
cheesemonger, that's
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was like, I know this. What am I looking this up for? Cheesemonger.
oh, the cheesery. I like the cheesery better.
I do too.
Bro, okay, wait, stop. We're gonna stop doing Neutral News Network. Jake, Zach, and I are gonna open up a grilled cheese shop and call it the Cheesery.
The cheesery. There probably is. That's probably a place.
if it's not, it's about to be.
All right. But yeah, so a pound of the Westcombe cheddar is about $18 US. A pound of the Pitchfork cheddar is $44, and a pound of the half odd is $54.
Mm-hmm.
So he was he was
He
trying to make
knew what
some.
the good stuff was.
And
He did.
all I'm gonna say is to wrap it up is he was
Don't
just
take your
trying to
cheese for
make.
granted.
Yeah, don't take your cheese. That's a good takeaway.
Don't
That's a
don't
good
take your
takeaway.
cheese for graded. He was
Yes.
he he was messing around selling cheese, trying to make some extra cheddar.
Oh, all
Oh,
right. Is this the end of the
yeah,
episode?
it's that
This is
time,
the end.
folks.
All right.
The
Well,
cheesery does exist. It's a boutique style cheese shop in western Wisconsin.
From
oh,
Wisconsin, of course it is.
of course. Yeah. Surprised I haven't been there. All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Neutral News Network. Hopefully, we could keep you all informed, get you guys thinking about some of the news events that are happening out there, and make you curious and wanting to explore and learn some more. With that, I think that'll wrap us all up for this evening. Looking forward to talking to you next week. Anything from you guys before we wrap it up?
Be careful out there.
Yep.
It
That's it.
snowed, so
Love
don't die.
your neighbor.
Love your neighbor. Be careful out there. Stay safe on the roads. It is the season for the slippery roads. With that being said, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. And with that, we will see you next week.